Well, now the moment we've all been waiting for. Our keynote speaker, Dr. Josie Badger. Dr. Josie Badger is the co-director of the RAISE National Technical Assistance Center on Transition and Workforce Development, which is a federal project that helps support projects locally, such as one at the Federation that we now call the Link Center, which is our transition center. She's also the youth director at the Peel Parent Center in Western Pennsylvania. She works in transition and leadership development. She received a doctorate in healthcare ethics from Duquesne University. She completed graduate school for rehab counseling at the University of Pittsburgh. She's a certified rehab counselor. She's a summa cum laude graduate in 2007 from Geneva College in her undergrad, majoring in disability law and advocacy. She once was crowned Ms. Wheelchair America. And you may remember that a couple of years we've had Ms. Wheelchair Massachusetts right here with us. She has created the Twitter campaign, I Want to Work campaign, around the employment of youth with disabilities. She's a contributing author to Transition Toolkits, has provided over 200 trainings, and does everything she can to support youth leadership, and she's fun to be around. Josie, we really appreciate so much your willingness to come and be with us today. We look forward to hearing from you on the topic of surviving to thriving, preparing a new generation for success. Welcome, Josie.
Thank you. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Morning. All right, so thank you guys for having me here. Rich didn't know it, but he got me out of my Pennsylvania conference, which was wonderful because I got to be here with you guys. So I'm excited to be here, and so I want to thank the Federation for having me here, and I want you all to know that this is actually a very rare experience. Most conferences are not as accessible to so many people in so many different life situations. So you guys have a rare and wonderful opportunity. So probably when you were looking at the brochure for this year's conference, you looked at my session and said, holy cow. If I go to this one session, I will know everything that I need to know about making my life and my child perfect. And not only that, society as well. Well, unfortunately, as much as I would like this half-hour session to do that, probably won't happen. However, I want you all to realize that hope is real, success is possible, and it all relies on you. No pressure, but it all relies on you. Okay, so we've kind of talked about this a little bit already, but I want to talk about the successes of where we are now, what we have going right, and go from there. So we have, over the past 50 years, about multiple different laws and legislations that have gotten us here today. We start out with the Civil Rights Act, which was really the foundation of a lot of our inclusion. Okay, we move on to the 70s, and obviously Massachusetts was going above and ahead of the rest of the U.S., but we have the Education for All Handicapped Children's Act, which was the foundation of education for all children. Then we have the Rehab Act, which was the foundation for all access for people with disabilities. And then we jump ahead to the 90s with the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is sort of our civil rights laws. It allows us access to buildings, communication, transportation. Jump ahead a little bit more, got the Affordable Care Act, which prevents insurance companies from denying insurance to people with disabilities or who have pre-existing conditions. Now we have the Workforce Investment Opportunity Act, which will push states and organizations to better prepare our young adults and people with disabilities for employment. So above and beyond that, we have these groups, like the Federation, and other groups, like where I work, the Raise Center, which provides support to these groups. Then we have other support groups and disability groups, research groups, advocacy groups, legal groups. We have all of these groups. Why are we here? This should be taken care of. Why are we here? Okay? Think about this. So the reality is that the unemployment rate of people with disabilities is still 3 times higher than that of people without disabilities. There are only 65% of people, youth, with disabilities who are graduating with a regular diploma from high school. And 1/3 of people with disabilities who live the rest of their lives in poverty. I want to ask, why right now do we have people who, we walk into Costco and they are checking the receipts instead of managing the entire store? Why are we doing that? Why do we have people with disabilities who are refusing full-time jobs just to keep insurance? And why are our IEP goals just working to get the young adults to pass through the grades rather than support them to be successful adults? This is what's going on in our world right now. We've come a long way, but we have a long way to go, guys. So, on that very uplifting note, I want to take you to Pittsburgh. That is where I'm from. Pittsburgh is called the City of Bridges. We have 446 bridges in Pittsburgh. Makes us the most bridges in the US. And although bridges are beautiful, those of us from Pittsburgh know that, oh no, we'll get you where you want to go. It might take hours and days to get there. So even though we might get a bridge, doesn't mean it's fast and easy. So bridges are meant to get someone from where they are to where they want to go. Once again, it might not be fast, but you'll get there. So this whole little presentation is going to be built off bridges since I see them so much. So when we're looking at bridges, there are 3 parts, primary parts of a bridge. As I explain this to you, you will realize why I am not a civil engineer. And be thankful for that. But, so there are 3 parts of a bridge. One, the very bottom are called the beams. They go across the river or whatever, the whole way across. And that is kind of the main support structure. On top of that is the foundation, which are the multiple shapes that kind of hold and spread out the weight from the top. Then you have the deck. And that's what most of us drive on or walk on. So all of these parts I'm going to talk about will refer to the bridge. So in my analogy, the bottom horizontal beams are what we have already in place, kind of the foundation of our supports. So we have the laws, the support groups, the various policies that are sort of holding everything together. Then, on top of that, we have this section, which is the main support section for all the weight. Who knows, what is the strongest shape? Triangle. Yes, thank you. So, the triangle is the strongest shape. So, there are a lot of triangles in Pittsburgh. So to create a strong bridge, we need the triangle effect of resiliency. we need young adults and families to be strong to not only withstand the weight, but be able to withstand the storms of life. Okay? So, as with any triangle, has three sides. These supports, this structure, also has three components. These components are relationships, independence, and expectations and opportunities. We're going to combine that into one. So I think that most educators in the room would have said, oh, obviously the triangle is employment, education, independent living. Those are wonderful IEP goals, but I found through my life as a person with a disability that most of my experiences and success came outside the classroom. They came without IEP goals and objectives. So, we're going to talk about the first aspect, relationships. You wouldn't know this, but I'm INTJ, if you guys follow that, I'm an introvert. So, not only was it that my disability caused difficulty in making friendships, but my personality as an introvert made it tough too. I spent a lot of time at home, whether it be because I spent so much energy at school that I was purely exhausted when I got home, or I was homebound a lot of time, so I wasn't able to make friends. These lack of social situations made it difficult to not only meet people who I connected with, but to develop the social skills. There is research that states that for every 10 friends that a young adult with a disability has when they graduate from high school equals another level, another year of schooling in their eventual pay and income. So for example, if I graduated with 20 friends, mutual friends, and that would equal me going on for 2 more years of higher ed in the eventual pay or income that I would make. So not only is friendship important for quality of life, it is important for success as an adult. My parents recognized that this lack of social ability, social capital, was a problem for me. They realized that without this network of supports, I was going to be in trouble. So my house became the party house. the house where all the family came together. I even got a Nintendo so everybody would come play. I was the cool kid. But that wasn't enough. Nintendo and Mario Brothers only goes so far. And so my family thought about this and they developed a 4-H club. 4-H clubs are generally for rural youth. I come from a rural community. And they focus on a certain outcome. For a lot of kids, it would be horses or cows. I'm a little short for that, so we went with dogs, a little safer route. So in this club, we had young adults ages 8 to 18, where we came and trained our dogs, raised foster puppies for service work, learned about dogs. And for the first time, I had friends who there wasn't a gap in my ability to do the same thing. And we had a mutual interest. The disability card wasn't an issue. So that changed my whole life. Having friends made me feel worthwhile and have purpose. So the next component of this triangle was independence. So If you look at me, you probably would think independence might be a little tricky for her. It is. So independence took a team effort for me. Independence doesn't mean doing everything on your own. It means doing what you want to do and when and how. So it didn't mean me riding off into the sunset, into the western sky on my trusty steed. It was about deciding what I wanted to do in my life. It was about having self-determination. And that wasn't always easy. My parents started early in supporting decision-making on whether I wanted McDonald's Happy Meal or Burger King. But then we moved on to higher levels. And growing up with nurses, that can be very tricky because I had to have 24-hour support and supervision due to my medical needs. So we had to be very creative in my independence. So my parents are very ingenious, and we are a little bit redneck. That's okay. I embrace it. And so, every little kid wants a tree house. Well, that might be hard. So my parents got a 1970s camper and wired it for my ventilator. So I had my tree house, and I had lots of camping in the front yard, plugged into the outlets in the house. But that was independence to me. I had an intercom that if I needed my nurse, they heard me. But I felt alone. I was able to have late nights with my friends and talk about girl stuff without a 50-year-old woman sitting beside me. And that was important. It's important to be a kid. It's important to do stupid stuff and to have the dignity of risk. It's important to be able to make a mistake. So, the last pillar of all of this is expectations and opportunities. As I was thinking about, this was my hardest one to think about because there's so many opportunities that I've had, and I've also had high expectations. I was going to college. That wasn't a question. I was going to live on my own. But I had to have the opportunities to do that. But for a lot of us with disabilities, maybe not from our parents per se, but others, they don't expect much of us. Just a couple weeks ago, I was at Costco, I think, and waiting for my friend. Do you guys have Costco's? Yes. Yeah. So I was sitting by the door in my scooter, and everyone tried to give me their receipt. and so I just kept looking at the floor, playing my phone. I was like, no, I don't want your receipts. But their expectation was all people in scooters by the door check receipts. That was expectation, not a high one, expectation. And often we live up to expectations. If you've ever had a goldfish grow to the size of their container. So if you have them in a small container, they won't grow. But if you throw them into a pond, like I've done, they grow into monsters. I think that we are just like that. We grow to the size of our container. And so one time, this is my favorite story. not many years ago, I was to get my doctorate, I spoke at a conference about students with disabilities, mainly teachers were there. And I had a niece at the time, and there were fun developmental toys there. So, of course, being a good aunt, I had to go try those toys out. And so I went to the table, they were for sale. And so I was playing with the toys to see if I wanted to get her one. Well, my mom was my support person that day, and the woman at the table, this was right before I went on stage to speak, went up to my mom and said, what developmental level is she at? And my mom said, doctorate. I love my mom, she's great. But that says expectations. Not only do we need to have high expectations, but the opportunities for young adults to pursue them. Whether that be working at the place of their choice or going by themselves to the mall, we need to have those expectations for our youth. So, looking back at the bridge, we have the foundation. All we need now is to build the resilient triangles of support. And that's your job. All of you, that's your job. So go out there, think about how you can help your young adults to be resilient and build that bridge from today to success. Thank you.